Speaking of a great teacher, Master Yoda, one of the greatest teachers of our generation. You must unlearn what you have learned. It's a great quote from Master Yoda. This quote is another attempt at breaking the association between images of the mind or the cultural conditioning of language and the real world or existence as it truly is, without all the noise, without all the mental images of culture getting in the way. Okay? Another way of saying this is that a word is like a finger. It can point the way to the truth, but the truth exists without the finger, right? The truth exists without any need for words or images, right? Just as the moon or whatever it is, right? We don't have a name for what it truly is, right? That's the finger. So that truth is the direct experience of nature. Should this image of the world, which has been placed over top of everything, this cultural conditioning is kind of like it's like a transparent layer. It's like a veil almost that's just in front of the primary reality, right? It's just right. It's like wearing culturally shaded glasses, rose-colored. You've heard that rose-colored glasses term, right? You see everything in a positive way. You take off the rose-colored glasses, you're still wearing the cultural, you're looking through the world through this cultural lens, right? But should this imago of the world ever dissolve, should you work to dissolve this, you will see things as they truly are, and you will have absolutely no words for such things. It's okay to not know, right? Everyone in our culture wants to know everything, right? But what we know is this much, and what we don't know is I can't spread my hands wide enough for what we don't know. And it'll always be like that. And that's okay, because we are it. Whatever it is, we are it. So if you're it already, do you really have to know? I'm not saying there's no value in knowing anything. That's ridiculous. Of course, there's lots of value in knowing lots of things. Makes our lives a lot better, right? But if you see things as they truly are, you will absolutely have no words for such things. The words you will use to describe them undoubtedly sound like Yoda-isms, like this one, right? This unlearn what you have learned sort of business, right? I think Master Yoda is lost on most people. Most Star Wars fans, I would venture to say, they don't really, they're drawn, and it's okay, they're drawn to the Star Wars story because there are these just primary archetypes that Joseph Campbell described in his book, A Hero with 1,000 Faces, of which George Lucas was a huge, huge fan. He actually did a series of interviews with Joseph Campbell on PBS. You can find it on YouTube, I think. But anyway, there's a lot of Zen Buddhist teachings. There's just a lot of esoteric occult teachings in Star Wars, and I think it's lost on most fans, which is fine. They're drawn to it because they're drawn to it, right? This is something we all identify with. And you don't have to point out why Star Wars is so compelling. You can just enjoy it, and that's wonderful. Now, once you can arrive at this state of unlearning, being okay with not knowing and being okay with unlearning, not doesn't mean you're completely ignorant, right? That's not what this means. It's letting go of this sense of you as a separate entity, in a sense, right? But once you can arrive at this state and cultivate a practice by which you can return to this state of being at will, right? Because you don't, the way this works is, if you go deep enough in your study and you go deep enough in yourself and you tune into your awareness, you can go to these places and you can release you can unlearn and you can release the cultural conditioning, but you'll come back. You need to survive in the world. This cultural conditioning comes back and you use it for a time, and then when you don't use it, hopefully you can use your practices to return to this state of primary being, right? That's what we're talking about. So once you arrive at this state and you cultivate some sort of practice or practices by which you can return to this state when you need to or when you want to, then you will be ready to understand the essence of all things, and word magic will cease to have the same power over you, right? Because essentially, word magic is a sense of cultural conditioning. That's, in a very real sense, that's really what we're talking about here, right? One of my heroes, Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World and personal friend of the enlightened spiritual teacher Jiddu Krishnamurti, has talked openly about the difference between knowledge and understanding, which clearly demonstrate the unseen forces which drive word magic in our world. One quick thing about Jiddu Krishnamurti, he was actually chosen to lead this new, I think it was actually the Theosophical Society that Madame Blavatsky co-founded. And he was chosen to be this new prophet, this new teacher. He was basically the chosen one of this system, this Theosophical Society. And he completely rejected it on the day he was supposed to speak publicly and announce that he was going to be the new leader and pretty much more or less, I mean, their version of the Messiah. He gave his speech and he totally rejected it, right? So back to Huxley. Huxley's talk on this subject about the difference between knowledge and understanding is the difference basically between this imago of words, this cultural conditioning of language, this passenger seat understanding of reality versus this primary direct experience of reality, right? Knowledge and understanding are completely different. And Krishnamurti shared this insight with Huxley. And I think Huxley was able to receive this because of his psychedelic experiences, because of his ability to shed the cultural conditioning, right? And at the same time, see what the motivations, what the inherent behaviors were that fueled this culture. And he, in a very real sense, saw the future with his book, A Brave New World, right? So there's an hour-long talk where Huxley discusses the difference between knowledge and understanding, and it's very much fueled by Krishnamurti's understanding, and it's a very enlightened talk. And I must have listened to this talk from Huxley, I gotta say 50 times, 60 times now. And it took me a while. It took me a long while to get it. But Huxley essentially explains the difference between direct experience versus the words and mental images which we create in order to describe direct experience, right? Give that a listen. You can just go on YouTube and bring that up. It's phenomenal. Listen to it dozens of times if you have to. If it speaks to you. If it doesn't, don't bother. It just happened to work for me. Just because it works for me, I'm not going to say it's going to work for you. The fact is, our reality has largely been manufactured for us using word magic, right? That is to say, the use of ideas and mental images associated with language directly influence what we believe to be true and how we view the world we live in. And this is a quote from Aldous Huxley. One believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them, right? So really, pick your teacher here. Master Yoda, Aldous Huxley, Krishnamurti, Alan Watts. They're all Lao Tzu. They're all saying the same thing. There's nothing new here, right? All these guys are teaching the same thing. So I want to go on a more kind of a scientific approach now to appeal to the more left brain among us. Another expression of direct experience versus words and mental images, or knowledge versus understanding, comes from Dr. Ian McGilchrist, Oxford literary scholar, psychiatrist, and neurology researcher. His book entitled The Master and His Emissary explores the functioning of the human brain. Dr. McGilchrist demonstrates how our reality consists of the unknown, or newness of direct experience, versus the known, or intellectual realm of data, which is already recorded, already established, right? Previously established facts, which are post facto recordings of the direct experience, which is essentially dead information. Information that's already known, right? Things we already know, TV shows we've already seen, books we've already read, movies we've already watched, right? Movie references we've already given time and time again, or we've seen. That is knowledge. And the newness, the dynamic newness that unfolds in the moment is understanding, right? And you can see this slide here. This is from that video. It's a really excellent visual illustration. Someone illustrated Dr. McGilchrist talking about this left brain, right brain. It's not really left brain, right brain so much as it's the unknown and the known, right? The knowledge side of the brain and the understanding side of the brain. The primary direct experience, the part of your brain that parses, that interprets the direct experience happening in the moment versus the part of your brain that just dips into your memory and gives me a quote from the Family Guy, gives me something clever that I've heard before that I'm going to use. I'm going to insert right here. I'm going to put right here, right? That's kind of what this illustrated video talks about. This illustrated talk from Dr. McGilchrist. It's called The Divided Brain. If you search on YouTube, it's phenomenal. I've probably watched this, I don't know how many times, but it's just beautiful illustration of what I'm talking about, and it's a very modern scientific way to understand this occult concept. And it is probably one of the most enlightening videos on this particular subject that a seeker could ever hope to find. This is a real treasure, so definitely check that out, right? So as pointed out by the author of a book called Visual Intelligence by Amy Herman, we map a concept or words to what we see in front of us. Our day-to-day visual world is filled with secrets and symbols, yet our minds are conditioned to quickly label what is in front of us as this or that, right? So that we can go on about our day, which makes sense, right? I can't sit down in the half lotus position and contemplate a crack on the wall, and and like, I can't look at something in my environment and just zone out on everything and just go, can't really do that, right? We have lives, right? This is a fast-paced world we live in. That's our reality, right? However, this way of parsing our reality isn't how visual artists interpret their world when it comes to the creative process. The visual artist goes deeply into the subtle gradients and nuanced shadowing of their art. Only the casual observer would hastily map a carefully crafted work of art into a phantasm or mere concept of the mind. Okay? You can go and look at art on the wall. You can go to a gallery, and you can just do this thing. Okay. And then you go to the next one. And then you go to the next one. Right? We kind of get an idea. Okay, this one's about, there's a guy here, and his eyes are closed, and there's a lotus flower, and then this one has a sun symbolism, and then there's a Egyptian character here, and okay, got it. Let me go to the next one. Right? The fast pace of our society sparks this rapid-fire conjuring of images from our memory. We have to constantly dip into the memory. What's often confused with intelligence is someone who can just dip into the memory banks and bring something up that's already been established, right? But what's truly intelligent is something new, something novel, right? Something like the process, some sort of process like evolution, for example, or something novel that just appears out of necessity in the world, right? That's truly intelligent, right? Being able to recall things that have already been established and just dip into the memory bank and bring it up, bloop, 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 right? I've got all of this information that I know that's already been established. It's less impressive, right? And this is what I call bringing the old to the new. So it's a habit that a lot of people have where you'll come to a new experience. Let's say you come to an art gallery and you look at this piece in front of you and you're thinking about a bunch of different things. But if you're really focused and you're really looking at this piece of art, you're going to be less inclined, if you're really going into the experience, just opening to the experience. Just be open, right? If you're opening to the experience and looking at what's in front of you, you're going to be less inclined to go, this reminds me of this, or the time that I did this, or the time I did that, right? You're doing all this stuff that's like not even here. You're not even here. You're somewhere else, right? And you're bringing some past experience up to your present moment and kind of putting it over top of what you see, right? That's bringing the old to the new, right? Have you ever told someone about an experience that just happened to you, right? What if something just crazy happens to you? And you're like, dude, you're not going to fucking believe this. This is fucking crazy. I got to tell you, this just happened, right? It's like fresh. And it's new. And it's, these kind of things are, this is where life lives, right? This is in these new experiences. You're like, fuck, you're not going to believe this shit, right? And you tell your experience to this person and you give it as much life and as much breath as you can because it just happened. It's fresh. So you want to get the experience out and you're feeling the energy of it and you're just excited and you're like, man, you're not going to believe this shit. You can't. This is crazy. And then you tell your story. And then the person you tell proceeds to bring up the most similar, out of the memory bank, bloop, the most similar experience they can from memory, and then proceed to tell you about their experience relating to yours. That's kind of annoying, right? That's bringing the old to the new. So the next time someone's telling you something, about some experience, right? And a lot of times when the story's when it just happened, you're just like open, right? That's the state to be in all the time. You're just like completely opened up and you're like, yeah, wow, and you're not really thinking, what am I going to say next? I got to dip into the memory bank and I got to get something out that's going to relate so that I can prove that I'm listening, prove that I'm relatable, prove that they're being heard. I need to get, don't do that, right? That's bringing the old to the new. So the Imago looking glass we hold up to the world we see causes us to miss quite a lot, right? As well as causing the quality of our attention to suffer. Because if we're always thinking about what do I already know that I can bring to the conversation? It's so stupid, but people do it all the time. I do it sometimes. I'm hopefully been doing it less and less. Because when you enter a state where you can bring the new to the new, you surprise yourself. And you're guaranteed to surprise other people. And that's magic. That's one great aspect of magic. That's very enjoyable, right? So we can miss quite a lot if we're bringing the old to the new, right? And we make quick associations and judgments where such hasty interpretations represent a failing of our senses to really enter that moment, enter the reality in which it's being presented to us in the now, to really enter it, right? I've heard it expressed as making love with every moment, right? Every single moment is an opportunity for you to love that moment, right? And just to be like, wow, this is a totally different moment. This is new. This is so weird. Like being alive's weird. Reality's weird. Everything is so... We don't have ultimate answers. Neither science, nor religion, nor esotericism have the answers. We don't have these ultimate answers. So every moment is really weird if you think about it. And it's fascinating, and it's different, and it's strange, and it's worth loving into, because it's like, what is this? This is so strange. Every single moment is like that. This moment right now is like that. I'm feeling that right now. I'm feeling this. Wow, what the hell? This is just, everything's just so weird, right? And here I am just completely in my room, in my recording studio by myself in this moment here, right? And every moment can be like that. Every moment can be special. And it can be felt in a way that that is genuine and doesn't need a spiritual practice, doesn't need any psychedelic substances or any kind of drugs or anything like that. You can go into those moments, right? And this is what seeking, this is what being a student of the occult, this is what this can lead you towards, right? So the act of being slow and deliberate with one's observations in the world, and I should also add, not just being slow and deliberate, but just being open, just not bringing this old to the new, right? And if you need to be slow and deliberate, that means that you can catch yourself and going and think, am I just dipping into the memory bank here? Am I bringing the old to the new? Okay, let me see if I can bring the new to the new, right? Let me just be open to the experience, right? And so this openness in one's observation in the world is often in contradiction with the presumed pace of our reality, right? Being open, deliberate, being careful, taking that time to just really listen, right? And like, yeah, tell me, oh wow, tell me your story. And then you start, you don't know what could happen out of being so open. New questions could arise that just come to you in the moment, right? Instead of taking this, dipping into your old memory bank and going, all right, what can I offer this person? You start thinking about what you're going to say before the person has finished their story, right? It's terrible. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes people to do that. And catch yourself doing that and then let go and just be open, right? So just trying to take our time ordering a coffee, for example, if you're in line at Starbucks with several people behind you in line, right? You can sense and observe just how quickly the energy can change with people because everyone's like in a rush and right? But you can counter that by going into your own esoteric practices of unlearning and bringing your awareness to higher and higher levels, right? Because especially in this modern age, it's incredibly easy to suffer from infobesity, right? More than ever, we have countless sources of information coming at us from every direction. It's just crazy, right? One of the best things you can do for your mind, body, and spirit right now is to severely limit the sources of information you are exposed to on a daily basis. It doesn't mean you should, I'm not saying you should cut the cord. Maybe it works for you, no internet, whatever. That is typically a bad strategy. Instead, I would recommend finding some places on the internet that work for you that aren't flooding you with information, but more helping you to open your practice of seeking, open your practice of unlearning and bringing your awareness higher and higher, right? Just a little bit at a time. You can't expect to flood your senses and flood your mind with all kinds of information, and just by mere osmosis or exposure, you're going to retain these things. A lot of these teachings that I learned or even unlearned were just a very repetitive process in different disciplines in different ways. And then I started to see how these different practices actually relate, right? So human biology simply just cannot keep pace with the information age and the flood of new data that comes in at us, right? At every day. So this exposure to information as it is delivered in today's world contributes greatly to anxiety, depression, sleeping disorders, eating disorders, chronic fatigue. And all of these are forms of dis-ease, right? So if you feel something is creating a state of dis-ease in your body, that could lead to a state of disease, right? That could lead in a very real sense, because this, if the quality of your attention, of course, if the quality of your attention is low, and I'll talk about that in a future part in this series, but if your quality of your attention is low, what happens is it disrupts the sense of ease and the sense of calm. This is where the word dis-ease comes from, right? So give your mind and body a break from the constant stimulation, or it will make you sick. So this is one of the last slides on this part. So really think about going outside, or even, you don't have to go outside if it's raining outside, if it's cold, or if you don't want to. But find a little piece of nature nearby. Even if it's in your home, make yourself a shrine of sorts, or make a little area, right, where you can have a peaceful feeling. Leave your phone. Leave it in another room. Leave it inside. Go outside, right? Just sit and observe yourself and your surroundings for a few minutes. And it may feel weird at first to do nothing, especially if you're addicted to your phone, right? My work is completely worthless to you if not put into practice so that your state of being is improved, right? So make a daily practice of getting out of the realm of thought. That is, do something which does not require thought. Initially, you will need to think about something. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this practice? How do I start? You're going to need to think about it, obviously. But after a short time, you'll be able to explore the different areas of a chant or a walking meditation, right? And you'll be able to go deeper into cultivating your own practice. Magic is all about practice, right? So find a chant on YouTube, such as that simple repeating of Om, right? Or the Om Namah Shivaya, right? This I bow to Shiva, and repeat it, right? You could sing the Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra, right? You could play an instrument. Don't worry about learning how to play it. Just play it. Some simple instruments, there's drums. They're very simple. There's all kinds of instruments out there. You can play freeform. You could dance freeform. I actually dance freeform a lot. I have drums. I have different instruments. But dancing is amazing. Like, amazing. I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable to see a white guy that's dancing, but I don't care, because the benefit I get out of it is worth any risk of embarrassment, because I don't know. That just goes away after a while. Anything that gets you out of your mind for a while, 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes, that's all you need to start off with. The greatest insights have come to those and the greatest peace of mind have come to those who have developed a daily practice of leaving their minds. Empty yourself and allow the experiencer to fill up with the experience. Just let the experience fill you up. Just dance just be ridiculous. Whatever you got to do, right? Until there's no difference between the experiencer and the experience, right? It's not really something you have to think about. You just set aside 5 minutes a day to start. And then the next week, maybe 10 minutes, right? This is a great quote from Master Yoda. Do or not do, there is no try, right? There is no try. Just do it. I've been dancing for a few years now, like publicly, not just at home. I go out. Oh my God, was it awkward and painful and weird. Oh man. And I think my motivations in the beginning were not as, I had some motivations or some attachments, right? Maybe I'm going to meet a beautiful woman, right? I was single at the time. Maybe I'm going to, be more attracted to women, that kind of thing. That was my motivation, or that was my intention. And then it changed, though. That changed to, I just freaking like this. Like, this is really fun. And then my confidence came up, right? My awareness level moved up several notches. And then I realized, like, I just like it because it just feels good, right? Could be anything. Could be playing an instrument for you. Could be anything. Could be taking one of those psychedelic, you seen those psychedelic coloring books? And just coloring and listening to music, could be anything like that. It's really up to you, right? Just try to leave your mind and go into that direct experience, right? Whatever it is that locks you into that direct experience, try it. So this is the end of part 8. Next week, you guessed it, it will be part 9.